Welcome back to The Explainer. Let's just be incredibly honest for a second, right? Modern life is absolutely exhausting. If you're feeling run down, overwhelmed, or just completely out of gas, trust me, you are not alone. But what if the way we've been trying to recover from all that exhaustion is actually making it worse? Today, we're going to give you a practical, life-changing roadmap to actual recovery. We're talking about actionable steps for planning true rest and setting up a weekly Sabbath that actually works right here in the 21st century. Let's dive in. I want you to genuinely evaluate your level of deep exhaustion for a moment. Ask yourself, are you just in need of a good night's sleep, or are you experiencing something heavier? Like, are you spiritually burned out? Because spiritual burnout happens when we literally have nothing left to give, yet we just keep trying to push through anyway. We often trick ourselves into thinking we're just physically tired, but the reality, our souls are totally depleted. We can't give away what we don't have. And those rushed, super distracted little moments we carve out for rest, they just aren't enough to sustain us anymore. But hey, don't worry, we are going to fix this together. Here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the modern burnout trap. Then, unrestful rest versus true rest, the 21st century Sabbath, a step-by-step Sabbath guide, and finally, embracing solitude and silence. All right, starting with number 1, the modern burnout trap and recognizing the signs of exhaustion. So here are the classic symptoms of this modern burnout trap. We so often treat our faith, our careers, and really just our lives like this impossible to-do list. We overcommit to volunteering or serving, totally thinking we're just being responsible. Or maybe we work 7 days a week for a noble cause, commit to crushing a 5 a.m. gym session every single day, and constantly fall into that relentless digital productivity trap where we feel like we have to learn everything and do absolutely everything. We convince ourselves we're just being good or, highly productive adults. But man, this little engine that could mindset, it inevitably leads straight to crushing exhaustion. Which brings us to part 2. Unrestful rest versus true rest, and why our coping mechanisms are totally failing us. Okay, so the absolute crucial difference here lies in how we define unrestful rest. Basically, it's leisure as a fruitless escape from labor that doesn't actually restore the soul. See, we often think that simply walking away from our professional jobs is enough to recharge our batteries. But if the activities we replace our work with don't actually restore our relationships with others or with God, we're really just escaping or not resting at all. And this is incredibly relatable, right? Recreating the plot of the movie WALL-E by sitting in a chair, binging TV, or just endlessly scrolling social media for 6 hours straight is not rest. I mean, it's such a natural urge in our modern world to just numb our brains, but I think we can all agree we never actually feel recharged after a marathon TikTok session. In fact, doing absolutely nothing and just staring at a glowing screen usually leaves us feeling even more exhausted than if we had literally just run a marathon. No way around it. So here is the core difference you need to catch. Unrestful rest includes things like scrolling social media or trying to relax while also, doing a load of laundry, grocery shopping, and catching up on just a few emails. Look, if it feels like a chore, it's not rest. It just keeps you trapped in that endless cycle of labor. Now, contrast that with restful rest. This is enjoying a deliberate, unhurried meal, taking a walk in nature, or dedicating real time to solitude. True restful rest requires actively unplugging from mindless leisure and those endless household chores. The author Andy Crouch really hits the nail on the head here when he says, you could think of leisure as fruitless escape from labor. It's a kind of rest that doesn't really restore our souls. We have to understand that true rest isn't just about the absence of work, it's about the presence of restoration. We absolutely need to actively unplug from this fruitless escape if we ever want to experience genuine, soul-deep recovery. Moving right along to section 3, the 21st century Sabbath and how to make ancient rest work today. We really have to start with this profound paradigm shift. Jesus said the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. And honestly, that is incredibly freeing. God didn't institute a day of rest just to give us another rigid religious rule to follow or another benchmark to feel totally guilty about failing. Not at all. He gave it to us as a joyful gift. Think about it. It is literal permission from the creator of the universe to just stop, take a breath, and realize that we aren't so important that the world's going to stop spinning if we take a day off. Look at how beautifully we can elevate this day. Because during the week, let's face it, we're usually in pure survival mode. You're throwing a Trader Joe's frozen meal in the microwave just to fuel up and get to the next task. But the Sabbath? The Sabbath is a celebration. It's the slow-breezed beef feast. It's taking the time to cook, to actually set the table, gather with family, and consciously celebrate the blessings we have right in front of us. It's a day set apart, intentionally designed to look and feel entirely different from your chaotic Tuesday. All right, section 4, the step-by-step Sabbath guide. Let's talk about how to actually do it. Okay, here is your clear, actionable framework to make this happen. Step 1, pick a day. It doesn't even have to be Sunday. Just pick a 24-hour window that actually works for your life. Step 2, identify what is restful for you and what isn't. Remember, running a 5K might be super restful for one person and an absolute chore for another. You do you. Step 3, create a plan. This is absolutely vital to eliminate decision fatigue on your day off. And step 4, actually rest and use that open space to be in relationship with God. Setting up a successful Sabbath requires intentional design. Now, here's a surprising truth we like to call the paradox of rest. Real rest takes work to plan. If you want a day completely free of laundry, vacuuming, and endless grocery shopping, well, that work has to go somewhere else, right? You have to front-load your chores. So you might have to sacrifice some Netflix time on a Wednesday night to get the vacuuming done so that your Sabbath is fiercely protected. It's a trade-off. Changing one day actually requires adjusting your rhythm for the other 6 days of the week. Let's see how this builds into an actual timeline. This right here is adapted from author Donnie Black's actual Sabbath schedule. Notice the structure. Friday night begins with a celebratory meal to transition into rest. Saturday morning has this dedicated time for coffee and prayer, followed by a nice nature walk at 9 a.m. Having a rough schedule like this, it completely eliminates the stress of waking up and asking, "Oh, what should we do today?" It gives you a safe container for your rest, proving that a structured rhythm is completely doable and, honestly, incredibly free. And finally, section 5, embracing solitude and silence to really detox the mind. We need to look at the massive barrier we face today. Digital culture entirely dissolves our boundaries. Think about it. In the past, you had to physically go out to a crowd to be interrupted. Today, the virtual crowd is literally always right there in your pocket. That incessant chirping, buzzing, and pinging intrudes on our most intimate moments. We're never truly alone anymore. Because of that, true rest requires a serious measure of self-denial. We must intentionally abstain from the noise, the endless notifications, and that digital crowd to actually be spiritually refreshed. Now, you might be thinking, look, I can't just escape to a desert monastery. And you know what? You don't have to. Here is a highly practical tip for finding pockets of silence right now. Simple solitude. Just turn off the car radio, the TV, and the streaming music while you're driving to work or running errands. Just use that completely silent space in your car to converse with God, to listen, and to simply be your completely naked self before Him without trying to produce or achieve a single thing. I want to wrap up our explainer today by leaving you with this provocative, really memorable question. What burdens are you carrying right now that God hasn't actually asked you to bear? So much of our deep exhaustion comes from picking up these incredibly heavy loads of expectation, perfectionism, and endless productivity that were just never meant for us. I really encourage you this week to put down that heavy load, follow the steps we've mapped out today, and step boldly into intentional, life-giving rest. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.